Hello, all of you beautiful knitter babies. This is Heidi from Knit with Heidi. I have a blog in address www.knitwithheidi.com. And also I have this YouTube channel and Facebook group, Knitter Babes. And I'm here always on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. in Central European time to share some knitting inspiration for you. And this evening, our subject is eco-luxury, which is something I feel very passionate about. So I want to start this series with this very important subject. If you have visited my blog and you have read my About page, then you probably have seen that I am a fashion designer by education. So I studied in the early 2000s, and one thing I remember specifically about my studies is that when I started to study fashion, I was really, really excited about it. I know I loved all the fabrics and the beauty of fashion and how fashion makes you feel. It's something very, very, it makes you feel beautiful, really. And I love the feeling. And I was also very passionate about the technical part of it. I'm not a very technical person, but I always loved to discover how fabrics are made and about all the raw materials and fibers and all of that. I really, really loved it. But as I was studying, I also felt all the time I had this like, while it was very exciting and I was super motivated to study. I spent my days just at school and studying, really. I was super motivated. But there was also something that made me feel unmotivated underneath the surface. And that was the feeling that there's something wrong with this fashion concept as it has been done right now, or back then. How should we say it? And when I studied, I started studying on year 2000 when I was 20 years old, like I am today too. Joking. So back then, I studied fashion design. So I'm an educated fashion designer or graduated fashion designer. And back then, why my school had actually been started was that just before that, in the 90s, there was a huge revolution in fashion. Before that, also Western countries, such as Finland. I'm from Finland, I studied in Helsinki. So in Western countries, there was also factories and industrial in fashion. So there were factories that made clothing. And what happened in the 90s was that the market man, the bad marketing man, discovered the fact that actually they don't have to pay so much for the people who cut and sew the fabrics and make them into the clothing. So they don't have to pay them as much if they purchase the labor from cheaper countries, such as Far East. So that opened the market to China and to India, for example, Bangladesh. We all know this. So when you look at your tag from your normal clothing, there it probably says made in China or something. So that was not before so common, but in the 90s it became very, very common. And what happened is that, of course, the idea, something I was wondering, I couldn't believe it when I was a student, but after that I learned that it's very, very true. That actually it is cheaper to ship the clothing like thousands of kilometers from one place to another. That is cheaper than to make them in a Western country, because the labor is so much cheaper in these Far East countries. So what that did to fashion is something that actually the Industrial Revolution did in the 19th century. And well, we are too young to have experienced that, but we have read it in history that, like, when we go way, way back in history, like hundreds of years ago, normal people usually they did their own clothing, like we knitter babes do now. Like I have done my top way, way back, hundreds of years ago. But then when you, like, fashion back then, let's say fashion, it really also, who had money to spend on clothing, and like the normal people, the middle class, they really didn't. It was like, it was not very common to get new clothing. It was like something very special to have new clothing. And what happened with the Industrial Revolution is that machines were discovered. So with spinning jenny and the machines, you can actually, you don't have to do the fabrics anymore by hand. There actually became a machine that could make the fabric, and that made it possible to make big amounts of fabric way faster than ever before. And that also means that the price of fabric went down, because so much time didn't go on spinning the yarn and then making it into fabric, but actually machines, volume goes up. That's like the market law, and that's how it goes. So democratic, because the size, the price of fabrics went down, so they become available, and fashion became more democratic, because it was not always only haute couture, it was also pret-a-porter. So you can actually make collections, and like, because before, clothing was always made to measure to that one specific person, but then you had collections that were ready-made, and so that made fashion more democratic, and that was like the revolution #1 in fashion. The industry of made in the Western countries, and clothing went to Far East. So what happened then is that the price of the garment, of the clothing, went even more down, because they didn't have to pay for the people who made the clothing. And this was feeling that when I think about, in order for me to be, because when the clothing is cheap, you obviously get to buy more. And what happened actually in the Western countries is that we buy so much of the clothing became a waste, which is very unethical and unecological, of course. And I felt really guilty about that. And for a long time, I don't want to be like, put myself in a better position here, because after my graduation, really, I also was a fashion victim. I totally was. Like, every month when I was paid for my work, I spent it on clothing. Every month I bought more clothing, because I love fashion. I bought a lot of fashion I want to wear, and like be shown in new beautiful clothing, and yeah. And at the same time, I was living against my values, really, because something in my head kept telling me that this is not right. It's not right that there's people in another country. I never get to see them, so it's easy to distract myself from that. But I felt guilty that somebody, or actually very many people out there, don't get paid fairly, and they sacrifice themselves so that I would be able to consume more, something that they would never afford to do. So that's like recycling the poorness. And it's easy for us to say that, yeah, but I cannot afford like expensive clothing, but really, that's just laziness, I think. I was lazy thinking that because I was too lazy to think of options, how to fix this. And then I think it was year 2010 or possibly 2009. I'm not exactly sure. I remember I was working as a concept designer in a department store chain, and what I was doing, I was designing the displays for these department stores, women's clothing departments. So I designed the displays, and then in each department store, they did the displays as I assigned them. So yeah, I remember I was working, but then I found out that in Jyväskylä in central Helsinki, central Finland, there was this fashion course that was called Slow Design, and it was held by Aki Chocolate, who's a shoe designer. He has actually taught also and lived here in Florence. He has taught shoe design in Polymoda, the fashion school, and yes, his subject on this course was slow design, and I was like, okay, this sounds really, really interesting. And back then, I all like every year I took some courses from the Open University to study more, and I was really interested in design. I've always been interested in design, so I was like, okay, I want to go to this course, and I went there. And what Aki Chocolate was teaching about slow fashion and slow design, that just like blew my mind. I understood that, okay, this is the solution. Like, this is what has been bugging me in this fast design industry. This is something that, like, this is it. Like, this is how it should be done. So what slow design and all this slow movement is about. It was born here in Italy. So it was originally, it was born as slow food movement. I'm sure you've heard of it. The Italians were against the fast food concept, and they designed or developed this slow food concept, which means that the food is slowly made, it's better, it tastes better, and it's respectful towards the food. So it's not something we consume fast. It's something that we put effort to and actually enjoy. And this concept can be also brought to fashion. So fashion is not something that just quickly put together, consumed quickly, and then thrown away and forgotten. So that is the concept of fast fashion. And then there is the concept of slow fashion, which is something very different. And I remember specifically something that opened my mind was when Aki said in that course that slowness is actually the new luxury. Because back at that point, the world was so fast. Everything, like the fast was the new black. It was a complete value of the whole society. Everything needed to be happening fast, like more, faster. And that was something that everybody was doing. Everybody needed to be fast and efficient, and that, I think, is still the value in the society. But I hope we are moving towards the slow movement now. And yeah, so slow movement, because the trends and fashion, they always go like a swing from one side to the other. So when we reach this one, then there becomes the second wave that takes us to the other side, and when we have reached the peak there, then we go back to the other direction. That's how fashion works. That's how it always works. And that's true also in this making of the garments. So when there had been enough fast fashion, what happened was people all over the world started to waking up that, does this make any sense? And this is also like something that I was like, does this make any sense that we're like, there's somebody who doesn't make enough money so that I could have more clothing? No, that doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make sense. And how can we fix this? How can we change this? So we are on the wave of a third fashion revolution. So we are going away from the fast fashion and going into the slow fashion. And what Aki said, that this is actually the new luxury, because fast fashion and fast life is something that we all it's within all of us reach. Everybody can have and consume fast fashion. The prices are so cheap that everybody can, in the Western world, it's within everybody's reach. I, for example, remember when after my graduation, I was working for maybe 1 year in purchasing department for a supermarket in the children's department of clothing and fashion. And I remember that once there came this assignment that we were supposed to purchase a T-shirt for children that was to be sold out in the supermarket or hypermarket with the price of €1, which made, like, to me, I was just like, how can that be, like €1? Like, the purchase price of a normal T-shirt maybe that time was €3 or €4 purchase price, and then you double it to sell it in the market. But we were supposed to sell that in the supermarket for €1, which means that the purchase price would be, okay, we take away the VAT, 24% in Finland, like the purchase price should have been like 30 cents. So if one T-shirt costs 30 cents, I think we can all figure out what does the person who actually sews that T-shirt with her own hands is making out of it. Like, nothing. That's like, yeah, I have no words for that. But that's the concept of fast fashion at its worst. But anyway, and slow movement is the contrary of this. And Aki said that the concept of the slow fashion and the slow design is that not everybody nowadays can afford to have time. So actually, time is the new luxury, because the whole society needs to work so quickly that only few of us, because luxury is always something that's within the reach of a few people. Time is actually the new luxury, and not very many people can afford to have time, because we're all so busy. We're like full of schedules, and we have all the time so much to do. At work, we have to be very efficient. Then we come home, we have still things to do. We have to go to the hobbies and do things, like we'll be doing all the time. So we don't have actually time just to be, and that is the new luxury. And what it has to do with fashion or design is that actually the new luxury products are something that take time when you're doing them. And it's really rare, for example, to have handmade clothing anymore. That is the luxury. And now I think you can find the bridge here. What it has to do with knitting is that we all know, we are knitter babes, we know knitting is slow fashion because it's not very fast. For example, I have done this top. This is from our Knitter Babes collection from July. I published 4 tops, and I'm pretty fast quick knitter, so I knitted 4 tops during that month, so 1 per week plus making the instructions. But maybe you are quicker than me. I don't know, that's possible. Maybe you're slower than me. But you know that making a top or a sweater, it's not always that fast. It may take some people even months to create them. For me, it's 1 week, 1 sweater. That's my pace. But anyway, we all know that creating things, knitting by your hand, it's not fast. It's really super slow, especially if you compare it to the machines. So that actually makes knitting very, very luxurious because it's not within the reach of everybody, and it takes time to create it. And what this fast fashion has created to the world is actually quite many problems that we have to solve as a society. First of all, fast fashion means that there are people who make clothing, and they are poor people, and their pay doesn't go up, so the poor people remain poor, or they become even more poor. While in those countries, the rich people, they become even more rich. So the gap between the societies just gets bigger and bigger. That is a problem. And okay, it doesn't touch us here, but it's because of us, so we have to be part of the solution. And also, one of the things is when there's fast fashion, you wear it and you throw it away. What happens to the clothing when you throw it away? So we already have a planet that is full of trash. We don't want to add that. We have to do something about that. And for example, when you do your own clothing, when you knit your own clothing, you don't just wear it and throw it away, do you? I actually just happened to notice I have with me here in Italy a cardigan that is made by my grandmother to my father in the 60s. And I still have it here, and it's in mint shape, perfect condition. And when it's cold, I wear it. It was made for my father, but I still wear it. It's beautiful yellow. I'm going to show you when it's more cold. Now I cannot wear it. It's 30 degrees here now. But anyway, like, this is the concept of knitting. When you create something with your own hands, no way you're going to throw it away immediately. Actually, it's something that even your grandchildren may wear sometime. Like I wear things that my grandmother did to my father, and now that I have them. So I'm proud to wear them. I love them. And this is something that's really ecological. And this is how in knitting, it's combined ecological and luxury. Because it's ecological when you do the clothing with your hands and you don't throw it away. There's very little waste, if any, in knitting. And also it's luxurious. It's not within the reach of everybody. Not everybody knows how to do their clothing, and not everybody certainly has time to do their own clothing. And also to the concept of luxury, I like to include also how the knitwear looks like. Because that is definitely something that's part of the luxury. And what I always want to emphasize in my own designs is that when you wear my designs, you will have the feeling, which I described in the beginning when I was studying fashion. Like, fashion makes you feel good. It makes you feel beautiful. It makes you feel luxurious. And that is something I want to also bring to my designs, so that whenever you knit my designs and you wear them, you will feel like you're on the top of the world. You will feel luxurious. You will feel expensive. You will feel like so beautiful. That is my intention in all of my designs. That is the kind of clothing and accessories that I want to design. That is how I want to make you feel when you wear them. And that is also part of the luxury. And that is also part of ecological, because when you wear clothing that you really, really like, you don't just throw them in the back of your clothing rack or cabin and then just forgot them there. They become your favorite clothing and you want to wear them. Like, when it's summer, you're waiting for the winter to come just so you can wear that beautiful beanie that you have made for yourself from the beautiful glitter cashmere, you know what I'm talking about. So that is why I'm really passionate about this whole knitting concept and why I love it, because to me, in my mind, it solves this problem which I was really experiencing when I was studying fashion. And when I do knitting instructions, I don't feel this guilt. I actually feel like super excited. And I know it makes also a difference to the world, because it's ecological and it makes women feel beautiful. So it has the best side of the fashion, but it eliminates the worst parts of the fashion. And also because of this, one of my important things, what I emphasize in my blog and in these my lives, is also the yarn that you use. So when you are knitting, you're doing something, you're putting your heart and soul into the clothing that you're creating or the accessories that you're creating. You want them to be like high quality yarns that you use. So you want them to last in the time. You don't want them to get like you make this top and then you throw it to the washing machine. You wash it and you notice that it's instantly full of peeling and it looks awful. You don't want that. You just spent 2 months creating that top. So you don't want to do it from a low quality yarn. So that is also something that I want to teach you about in these lives, and I talk to you about it in these lives. I want to talk about yarns and help you choose the right kind of yarn. And also, when you choose the right kind of yarn, you can also take into consideration the ecological values of these yarns, because in the markets nowadays, there's so many wonderful, beautiful options of ecological yarns. And I'm going to tell more about them in the future, because like that's something I'm really passionate of. So like I told you, when I was studying fashion, I love to study about the fibers and the fabrics and all the textures of the textiles. So I'm really passionate also to share that information with you. And I want to help you choose the kind of yarn that you will be happy with, and which will feel good, and you will know, like, feel the luxury also in the yarn. And there's so many recycled options nowadays in the yarn market that when you do your fashion item by yourself knitting, you won't screw it up with choosing the wrong kind of yarn. So it's not just the knitting, but also the yarn part, especially now that the craft, because we are in the slow movement, and the craft is actually a new trend. Making your clothing with your own hands is actually a trend now. So that makes the yarn business, it has grown bigger. So that's why it's also important that we don't allow to happen to the yarn business the same thing that happened to the knitting business. So we always have an option to make better choices, and that requires also to make better options when choosing the yarn. And that is something I'm going to speak to you in the future lives. But this was just really to give you some like inspiration, and the idea that when you're knitting, you're actually experiencing a piece of luxury. So every time you have your project on your hand, like for example, I have here my next project, or one of them. I actually have many on my needles, but this is something I've been working on today. It's going to be a sweater, as you can see. I love this color. It's very turquoise, very beautiful. So yeah, when you're working on your next project or whatever you're working with now, just take a moment and think about it, that this is actually super luxurious. Like, I'm creating a super luxury ecological product here, and me being able to knit here is something that's not everybody can do, because I have the time to do it and I have the skill to do it. So this is actually like, feel the luxury. And then when you wear your clothing that you're making, like, feel it really like, wow, this is luxury. Not everybody can have this. It's not within everybody's reach, but it's in my reach. Because that's how it is. Have you ever thought of it from that way? When Aki told me this, I was just like, I think my mind just blew that, okay, this is the way that fashion should be. Like, this is what's wrong with the fashion world. We don't need more and more and more all the time. We need beautiful things, because I am a total beauty freak. I love everything beautiful. That's why I live in Italy, in Florence, the most beautiful city in the world. I love beauty. I love to create beautiful things. I love it. But we don't have to fill the world with new stuff and then just throw it away. I prefer that we buy less, and we buy things that we really love, and things that we're really committed to, so we can wear them for years and years and years and tens of years, like my cardigan that I told you about. And that is the idea of fashion. And that is like also the idea of eco-luxury, because that is something that not everybody does right now. But I hope that the world is going to that direction. And that is also what my designs are about. So I want to do things and design clothing and accessories that you can wear and you can feel happy and luxurious about, and very like, yeah, I want always to put the idea and a feeling of luxury to my products, so you can feel like very, very good when you wear my designs. And yeah, so please go to my blog, knitwithheidi.com, and there you can find all my fashion designs. I have a Knit Your Babes membership there. So all my new patterns, I publish one new pattern each week, and you can go there to my blog and you can find there a Knit Your Babes membership. So my Knit Your memberships are the members are the first ones to get a new pattern. So as a member, you get one new pattern every week. So you will never run out of beautiful things to knit. And yeah, and then when but the patterns have been there for 3 months, then I'm publishing for everybody. But as a Knit Your Babe member, you get the patterns immediately, just fresh when they are published. And on Fridays, every Friday, I always introduce my new patterns. So this Friday at 7 p.m. Central European time, Rome time zone, I'm publishing this week's pattern. So please be here and I will show you something beautiful which I have created for this week. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. Please hit me with comments. I would love to see what you think about these ideas of eco-luxury. And I'd love to see if you ever thought that knitting is actually really, really luxurious and you're like on the movement of a new fashion revolution as a knitter babe. Yeah, so hit me with the comments. I'd love to see your ideas and your thoughts about it, and I would love to also reply to you. And I will see you in the